I'm going to do that for you. I jest, but thank you guys so much for coming. Jack forgot to mention that much like Sesame Street, today is sponsored by the color blue, and so we got a lot of blue in the room, and many of you have commented about our new digs up here on the stage. All of you know we have been taking care of business in the Robbins region for over 75 years, and we are huge proponents of community over competition. At the end of the day, if we're all doing our best, there's enough business to go around as we continue to attract people to this vibrant community. And we had the opportunity to partner with my good friend Stephen Durham in the corner back there, Steve Wave and everybody, at Home Furniture and Mattress, and Phillips Furniture. So today, Home Furniture and Mattress has given us our little living room set up here for our chat. But every meeting we have this year, throughout the year, we're going to be showcasing different things from our two locally owned and operated furniture stores. And y'all help me give Stephen a round of applause for stepping up to the table, and I'll come down.
April, I guess there's just not a lot of songs about bald guys, huh?
I guess not. We did have a song, but it's fine. It's all good. But I did. Speaking of our furniture, I did send at Jack's bequest. I sent Dan a text ahead of time with a picture of this, and it said, "Just don't wear brown because you will look like an actual couch potato." So that was going to be the Ron Weigel joke today.
I feel like all we're missing is like a box of tissues, because I'm going to be laying down in a few minutes talking about salvage trauma. Really working through some things this morning. Good to be here this morning.
Yeah, I was about to say, just take it away.
Well, thank you all for being here this morning. Look forward to addressing some community topics this morning. Jeremy did a phenomenal job. We do appreciate the partnership we have with Flint and many more of our utility providers in Houston County. He did a phenomenal job mentioning many of the team members who are here this morning. I picked up a page of notes and threw them away as he was talking, but really want to thank our commissioners for being here this morning. I'll start with Commissioner Gottwals, who is no stranger to the room as a past chair. As a couple of our commissioners are for the Robbins Regional Chamber, but a recent past chair for the Robbins Regional Chamber, and also a phenomenal small business person. Figured out how to sell books in brick and mortar during the age of Amazon, and does a phenomenal job with it. And also will point out any grammatical errors in our agenda, which I very much appreciate. For those of you who produce materials like that, you know you can never have too many sets of eyes on them. So appreciate Shane's work. He does a tremendous job. Takes all of our commissioners take their job very seriously. Really want to serve the people and want what is best for the citizens of Houston County. Commissioner Talton is here. I'm not going to ask him to stand up and do any jumping jacks for us this morning as he's on crutches, but really thankful that he's healing up from a recent accident. Commissioner Talton has an agriculture background and does a phenomenal job on the commission, trying to weigh out sometimes weighty issues in what we consider, and really listens to all the voices. I tease he and Commissioner Byrd that I think everybody in Houston County has their phone number, because they will frequently hear from people long before I will hear from them. And but I'm great with that, quite frankly. Commissioner Byrd's here, another small business person, and does a phenomenal job. Longtime leader in this community, and we're really appreciative that he's on the commission, serving in that official capacity, and bringing the knowledge that he has of the community and the history here to bear. And then I'd like to call her, and I think she rolls her eyes when I say it, but the Dean of the Commission, Commissioner Gail Robinson, has a lawyer and brings a lot of wise legal knowledge, certainly. But as County Attorney Tom Hall will tell you, she also doesn't try to play county attorney. She understands her role as a commissioner and does a phenomenal job. Served yesterday on the Animal Control Board for us as well, which is an important group in our community, and brings lots of experience. When us newer folks on the commission think we have a great idea, she will often say, "We tried that about 15 years ago, and let me tell you how it went." And that is a very, very valuable thing to have in your corner. So Jeremy mentioned Robbie Dunbar and Brian Jones. Robbie is our Director of Administration, does a phenomenal job leading that side of the house. And Brian Jones is our Director of Operations, Director of Public Works, does a phenomenal job leading that side of the house. Our CFO, Danielle George, is here as well. Danielle was a great hire for us. She did our audits for many years, and when our former finance director left, we reached out and asked if she knew anybody who would be willing to come to work, and she said, I think I would be willing to come to work. So that is, anytime your auditor is willing to come to work for you, that's a good signal about your financial health. I mentioned Tom Hall. Appreciate Tom, his wise guidance for our commissioners and trying to keep us legal in everything we do. And of course, Chief Stoner and the work he does. Also, lots of community partners here. I see lots of, Jeremy mentioned the Development Authority, and we work hand in glove with them on many projects. I see folks from the city of Warner Robins. I saw some folks from the city of Centerville and the city of Perry here this morning. Really appreciate the community partners and how when we need to, we are all pulling in the same direction. And that's really, really valuable in this community, and can't be overstated how valuable that is.
Yeah, here, I agree. And what's that?
Wife.
Oh yeah, your wife.
She hates this, but I'll do it, Jack. Thank you for opening the door to that. Also want to say thank you to my wife, Jessica, for being here this morning. So, yeah. You won't be writing any lines of work for that business, Jack. Good job.
So I'll take it back over from here. Jim mentioned at the top about the legacy of leadership, and that's something every time I sit down with you, Dan, we talk about, and we've mentioned all of the community partners and leaders in the room, and we have just started our new leadership class for this year, and if you're in that class, if you'll just slip your hand up. We've got 7 or 8 of our class members. Raise them high, absolutely. This is our next generation. Y'all give them a round of applause. Of course, so many in the room served on the chamber board or serve in other ways, but y'all look around. This really is the room of leaders and community members who are making things happen in the Robbins region. And so I just encourage you. We've got roughly 200 of y'all here today. We want you back next month, and we want you back every month because we are talking about timely topics that impact you in your personal life and your business. And we know with great leadership comes with great responsibility and a lot of great scrutiny. And so I think one of the elephants in the room people weren't sure if we would talk about today, Dan, we're going to jump in and talk about first.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So the U.S. Department of Justice recently filed a lawsuit against Houston County regarding its method of electing commissioners. Obviously, Tom's got a buzzer over there. So we know we have legal considerations that may limit what you can say, but can you just share with us what this means for the county and what steps, if any, the board is taking to navigate the situation?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Feel free to lie down if you need to.
Yeah. On December 19th, I received and Tom received a letter from the Department of Justice letting us know that they had been conducting our perception is a multi-year investigation of voting practices in Houston County. They requested a response by December 30th, which was a tight timeline, but we did seek outside counsel who has experience with these sorts of cases, and we're able to generate a response for them. So if you're doing some math, December 19th was after our second commission meeting in December, so we have 2 meetings a month, and also there's the Christmas holidays in there, so that created a tight timeline for response. We were able to meet with the Department of Justice in Macon at their offices finally on January 8th, and that was the first time that we actually got to see evidence from their case and a map that they had drawn for possible districts and things like that. So it became very obvious to Tom, to our outside counsel, to me, and to the rest of the Board of Commissioners that they felt the need to file, to take some sort of action before the change of presidential administration on January 20th. So we got a letter on December 19th. We got the sense that they were going to take some sort of definitive action by January 20th. We didn't feel like it was wise to try to reach a consent decree in that sort of 30-day time frame, if you would. And so we asked we wanted to get the evidence that they have been evaluating and they have looked at. And Section 2 complaints under the Civil Rights Act are a little bit different. It's more like a legal test, not a finding of wrongdoing, if you will. And so the specific legal test is called the Gingell's test. And what it's looking at is, number one, can you draw a majority-minority district in a place where there are currently at-large districts? And certainly the DOJ drew a map which they believe is a majority-minority district, represents a majority-minority district. The second part of that test is, does the minority in question, and in the case of Houston County, it would be African-American voters. In other places, it might be Hispanic or Vietnamese voters, or it just depends on the concentration of those populations. So in Houston County, does that majority-minority then vote as a cohesive block? And in the rest of the districts, does the white population vote also as a cohesive block? So there's three tests that need to be passed there for a finding that you may not be in compliance with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, that you're not in compliance with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. So I want to be very clear that Houston County follows the law. If we agree that we are in violation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, we will come into compliance. But we did not feel like we could do the analysis that the Department of Justice had done over multiple years in the span of about 30 days and come to a reasonable consent decree or settlement with the Department of Justice. And so we sort of let them know, well, you're probably going to need to file that lawsuit, and we're going to continue to work with you and negotiate with you. And those conversations are ongoing. We have a political scientist who is analyzing the data and trying to see how they reached their conclusions and looking at trying to do our own analysis of the data and the evidence in this case. So we're continuing to work with the Department of Justice and continue to try to interpret their findings and see if we agree, and then continue to talk about a settlement as well. So some people in the room may say, well,
but it is a powerful example of how community comes together during a time that could be incredibly challenging for so many, and we were able to recover so quickly. So just got a couple of minutes left. I would love, I know our members are probably already sick of it, and you're going to keep seeing us sending out emails about lawsuit reform and the legislation that Senator Kennedy is championing as part of the governor's lawsuit reform initiative. Senator Walker has signed on as a co-signer of that legislation for Senate Bill 68 and 69. This is one of those issues that counties and cities and the Georgia Healthcare Association and Chambers of Commerce are all rallying around, and it's something that's been, really at play since Governor Deal. So can you share a little bit about the impacts of that for the county and any insight you might have to add to the discussion?
Yeah, so I think certainly as the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia gets together, tort reform, lawsuit reform, legal reform is one of the primary issues that we have talked about probably in the last 6 to 8 years. When we're looking to address what are the needs. Yes, it affects counties. Yes, it affects cities. But I cannot think of a single other issue where the legislature has the capacity and the capability to really impact the prices, the costs that everyday Georgians are paying for virtually everything they buy. There is a built-in lawsuit tax to all of the business that is done in Georgia. And I think it does have traction now. I think we're beginning to realize that. Yes, it has impacts for the county as we go to, we, like many of your businesses, are exposed to liability, and we make mistakes sometimes. And as we go into these negotiations, it gets very challenging sometimes when you see some of the nuclear judgments that are out there and you have that looming. And they're pushing back harder and harder. And quite frankly, what pays those settlements are your tax dollars. It is really, we mentioned my wife earlier. My wife runs a trucking company day in and day out. So if you don't think I hear about tort reform, come spend a few hours with us, I cannot think of another issue where the legislature can have an impact, and that affects every single Georgian.
And it's one of those issues, it's a chamber issue that we're involved with, because we are proud that for the 11th year in a row, Georgia is the #1 state in which to do business. However, for the 2nd year in a row, we are the #1 judicial hellhole. And what has happened is our counterparts in North Carolina and Florida and Texas and others that are going after the same economic development projects that we are now using that they're weaponizing it and using it against us, because they'll say, well, did you see where the unfortunate single car accident in the city of Milton, a young driver drove off the road and hit a planter in the median, and unfortunately there was a loss of life, but the city of Milton was sued for $35 million. That equates to about $800 for every citizen. So that's adults, kids, everybody. That's what that translates to as a cost, and it would have bankrupted the city. So they have appealed and are continuing to work through that. Had it happened just a few miles up the road on state property, there's $1 million cap on what states can be sued for. And I've got James shaking his head over here. These are things that are impacting not only government and business premises liability. I'm sure you've heard about cases. Look up the CVS case where there was an altercation outside of a CVS that resulted in the argument, and a fight broke out, and they sued CVS for millions of dollars and won. It was at 2 a.m. And it's putting a tremendous burden on business, on communities. It's jacking up your insurance rates across the board, and it's something you're going to continue to see us advocating for. Most recently, as of Tuesday, there's a new email sitting in your inbox. If you have experienced the negative impacts of our current legal climate in Georgia, please share your stories. Please let us know. These are actively being used in testimony under the Gold Dome, and Governor Kemp has said publicly he doesn't have to run. He's not running for re-election again. He can't. And so this is his mantra, and we've got the leadership in place to help, bipartisan leadership to help move that across the line. So I wanted to foot stomp that. Mr. Chairman, it's been a pleasure. Is there anything else you want to hit on before we get off these comfy couches?
Yeah, thank y'all very much. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to serve the citizens of Houston County day in and day out. It is not a responsibility that I take lightly. It's not a responsibility that any of our commissioners take lightly. And I really hope that we steward it well, we act with wisdom, and we are always available to hear your concerns. So thank you for hosting this thing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Y'all join me in giving him a round of applause.